Boy, what a year 2023 had been for Shastram. It had been the year of a lot of dance reels. And I've had the privilege of traveling around Australia and India. And I've had the privilege of working with at least 95 artists on dance reels, as well as film and theatre projects. And I'm very, very excited to be sharing all of that in the coming year. It's been a year of discovering authentic expression, as well as politics, and a year in which I have realized the responsibility we have towards the history we carry forward as artists and influencers of society. We have much to share in 2024 and have been working tirelessly this year to create those projects. This brings me to a recap of our next project to be highlighted in Shastram, the Australian Social Experiment. Everything started when I wanted to do a set of dance rules around Australia, because that's just what the cool kids seem to be doing these days. Also, this was my way of reconnecting to Australia, the great southern land I've grown up in. A lot of my work has been based in India because India has been that mystical land I kept escaping to when living in Australia was not so easy as a South Asian. Anyway, I put up my post and reached out to some dancers in Perth, Burulu, namely Sneha Rajagopalan, Sadhika Suvarna, Gayatri Anand, Shanti Elizabeth, and Hamza Yogaraj. I wasn't really looking at how others perceived us when we did this video. At that moment, I just wanted to connect to land, celebrate Sringaram and femininity, and being alive and appreciating friendships and bonds we share and celebrate in life. I had also gone on a personal journey 2 years prior to this, where I made peace with this place I grew up in, and this video was a mark of that. The song we used was Runak Janak by Kanika. I loved the expression and freedom in this song, and when my friend Siddhartha translated the whole thing for me into English, it appealed to me even more. We filmed a lot of it near and on the Madagascar Bridge in Burulu. I considered this my happy place. The waters and nature around that place brought me so much healing. My other happy place we filmed in was the beach. Many a times I'd had moments staring into the ocean and feeling like I just belonged. So the choreography was to showcase the happiness and the peace I had found in this place by finding my own path and connection to land. In order to do this personally, I had to break some cultural boundaries as well. The choreography then reflected this. Although we maintained Indian classical dance movements, we adjusted them to the tone of the song. The costumes were also adjusted to the environment and represented the contemporary infused culture practiced within the diaspora. I highlighted femininity and female bonds because, to be honest, what made me survive growing up in Australia was the friendship I had with my female friends, some of whom, after decades, are still a very large part of my life. The other aspect I was celebrating was Sringaram, because until I discovered the Sringaram within me, I somehow couldn't see the beauty of this place I grew up in. They do say that the outside world is but a reflection of what's inside. Now, the experience of making this video was quite peaceful when it came to the onlookers. The people who saw us didn't have anything bad to say. There was one lady who was trying to get past us when we were walking in her way, but that was literally it. We did have an audience wherever we went, and some people asked if we were doing belly dancing, and that could have been an honest mistake because of the way we were dressed. Other than that, we had a few men compliment us, and, well, that was about it. The shoot was fairly peaceful, only we had a lot of mosquitoes fighting us, and that was how the first dance reel happened. Next, I heard the song by Vijay the Music Man, and I loved how he had fused all these different cultural elements together. For me, it was like the sound of the Tamil diaspora. Somehow, I was looking to represent my inner voice, which more and more wanted to represent the diaspora. For this video, I headed to Naarm, Melbourne, Victoria. So I spoke to a friend and dance exponent, Sriram Devendran, who also identified with the song straight away. We decided to go to Melbourne City and move in an impromptu manner to the song, flowing with whatever innovations that came in that moment. Sriram did some choreography there and then, and I moved with the phone according to his movement. And we, as usual, ran around the city the whole day. Only thing was, this time around, we got a lot of stares and some comments, some good and some not so good. Sri Ram was not dressed in Indian traditional clothing, but he was doing movements which would not have been common in mainstream Australia. We had some middle-aged Caucasian men from the footy commenting and trying to imitate him, calling out the term Bollywood. I found this interesting and disturbing because of the othering and also the generalization of all South Asians and our arts. Not everything we do is Bollywood. I mean, here I was, decades after coming to Australia and growing up here, thinking things had changed and society was far more accepting, and I was far more brave to go and showcase my cultural work. But there we were again, receiving comments. My mind flashed straight back to dancing in the middle of Boorloo City, Perth City, Forest Chase as a child and feeling very alienated. As a result, after we did the dance reel filming, Shriram and me had a lot to discuss or vent. We also talked about the othering within our own communities, where we are expected to follow a certain norm or we are looked down upon there as well. Of course, I started to document this and titled this documentation The Australian Social Experiment. The angle I'm exploring is following the mindset of South Asian migrant movement artists and their thoughts about practicing their art form in Australia. This is the Australian Social Experiment, and that is now being presented to you. I wanted to try this out again, this whole dancing in the middle of the city, but this time with 3 females, namely Janani Venkatachalam, a very good friend, Sridevi Gopinath, and Shama Sashindran, all extremely well-versed traditional dance artists from the Kuchipudi dance style, Bharatanatyam dance style, and the Mohiniyattam dance style. It was interesting how these ladies were immediately accepted and admired in the public, and it almost bowled me over and all my comments previously. There was also a Buddhist festival happening where we were filming, and perhaps the audience was much more open to seeing a display of other cultures in those spaces. This time the challenge wasn't the audience outside, but for the artists themselves to break their own cultural norms. It is interesting sometimes. I find that the diaspora tends to adhere to its culture much stronger than the people in the South Asian countries themselves. I guess we value what is rare, and the community here has had to work very hard to create what we have available today, from Navratri functions to temples to Diwali melas. So, although we live in a Western community, to overstep certain boundaries within our culture is frowned upon, especially by the keepers of culture. And Indian classical dance has been utilized as a medium through which culture and identity has been taught to the diaspora. And we are the keepers of culture. Especially we, dare I say, women. This was my discovery when I first did a theatre show, Patra, in Naam in 2019. The contents of this are posted in Shastram TV Season 3 if you want to see for yourself. So, my notes thus far on the Australian social experiment. There is always an expectation of what is normal, a generic way of being. Sometimes it is so deeply conditioned within us that we struggle to break it. And when others do break it, we judge them quite critically. This applies to both Eastern and Western cultures. Sometimes we just get confused as to which way to go, and you end up practicing something in the middle. Sometimes through confusion, and sometimes as a resolution. Some may argue this is diluting the culture, diluting the art. But some argue that too much adherence to culture is not assimilating with the country you live in. Some say assimilation should not be forced. I personally don't think any of it is right or wrong. Artists choose to navigate through this complex maze of opposing cultures, ideas, and beliefs in the way they see fit for them and their life. For me, it's been a journey about finding that authentic expression. But what is authentic? We will explore that question and more in the upcoming weeks. And of course, in finding our true self as a member of the diaspora, there comes that moment of decolonizing ourselves. That's a topic for the new year. And with that, we conclude our journey in 2023. Wishing you a fantastic 2024 with lots of peace, love, joy, happiness. See you soon with much, much more from Shastram.